Today is going to be about you. It's not going to be about me because I won't be doing all the talking except for in the beginning. My background includes working for home care. It includes working in neighbourhood centres. I've worked for a little tiny bit in state government, but I'm not very good in bureaucracies. And more recently, I completed a PhD in well, they call it urban studies, but it was actually about housing because I was very concerned when I was working for the Independent Living Centre, New South Wales, that we are still building homes as if people are never going to go old. So just a bit on the background of the project itself. As mentioned before, it's funded by the Office for Ageing. This is the second year of its program, and it's a follow-on from the work that Elizabeth O'Brien and Peter Phibbs did the year before, where they wanted to find out just where was local government at with the idea of an ageing population. State governments and federal governments were having some thoughts about that, but what was happening at local government level. And so what we worked out was we needed a resource for councils, and this workshop is part of that, and then we'll go on to actually make a resource from this workshop. So one of the things that we're going to do today is I'm going to set the outline for the day, which I'm starting to do now, and there's really three key things that we're going to be covering today. When we're talking about older people, who are we really talking about? And how do they interact in the built environment? And where do they fit into the community strategic plan? Now you heard your Mayor talking about the Community Strategic Plan, and this is a copy of it here, and we'll be looking at that this afternoon after lunch. Then we'll be looking at how can you actually make it all very practical by the end of the day. You know, it's all very well having the talk, but how can we walk the walk as well as talk the talk? So again, just to reiterate, the population is ageing. And there's no question about that. It's something that's happening all over the world for developed nations. In Australia, we had the National 2010 Intergenerational Report, which was a bit more about how we're going to adjust our economy to that. I think it was around Christmas time that the state government issued its ageing strategy, and so that's all policies and ideas at state and strategies at state level. But, you know, local government was still trying to get their head around it. So the study by O'Brien and Phibbs found that, in fact, councils weren't really preparing as well as they might. What they found was when it comes to talking about an older population, it's kind of, oh, you mean more aged care, and you mean that's the community services people's job. It's nothing to do with us. It's nothing, you know, they hadn't sort of thought about, well, yes, it could actually be about waste. It could also be about asset management. It could also be about other things, that engineering department and works department and the library and so on. Some council staff, or I should hope that most council staff, will know that there's a new planning process happening now across all councils in New South Wales, which is the Integrated Planning and Reporting Framework, and that requires each council to come up with their strategic plan. Okay, now that planning process allows us to feed into it as community people, and so this can be part of that process as well. I guess the thing that I say is that it's all very well having these strategies and plans and policies and things at state government level, but people don't live out their lives on the floor of Parliament House. They live out their lives on the footpaths and at the bus stops and at the swimming pools and the libraries at local level. So this is where it is really important for local government to play their part. My message today, I guess, is ageing is everybody's business. We want people to be active and involved. We think it's good for the health. It is actually good for the economy. Now, has anybody ever heard the phrase, we have an ageing tsunami? Well, I'm really glad that you have, well, you have heard that, yes. Well, as a COTA person, I have to say I really hate that term, because it makes it sound like all older people are a terrible burden. We're going to come and wash you all away and there'll be nothing left. And the thing is that older people aren't necessarily going to be a total burden, is that they may also offer opportunities. So it could also be good for the economy. And it's not just a social services issue, it cuts across all aspects of council's work. And what we'll find today is sometimes it's in the detail and not necessarily in the big picture. Get the big picture right, but sometimes it's the little details, like armrests on seats. Why do you need armrests on seats?
So you can stand up.
So you can get up more easily. Yeah, exactly. So sometimes it is just that detail that will make the difference. It's really the simple stuff like footpaths, seating, lighting, wayfinding and toilets. And then I had to add in parking after I did a couple of workshops, because we found that parking, not parking with the mobility sticker type of thing, but just parking that is nearby and in a place that makes it easy to get to where you want to go. Now, what do you understand by wayfinding? The way I explain wayfinding is, have any of you been to a large shopping mall and looked for the directory board for the shop that you're looking for, but can't find the directory board? I mean, that's certainly been my experience. There is no sign to the directory board. So there's no sign to the signs. For example, also, if you were walking in the room here and there was just a sign on this door that said toilet, for example, you can't see that. What you need is a sign above you here pointing in this direction to say that there is a toilet over here. So that's a simple explanation of wayfinding, and it's a lot more than just signage. Toilets. I'm sure I read just recently something about by the time you get to 65, a huge proportion of the population has an overactive bladder, which means they need to find a toilet quite regularly. Now, I don't know, like I've got grandkids, and I was listening to, in fact, I was listening to another mother, not my own daughter, who was saying, we plan our long trips by where the McDonald's are, so that we can, stop off and have a rest and a break at McDonald's, and they can play, and then we can get back in the car. Well, the same thing happens when you take grandma out now, is you have to go to McDonald's because you can be sure that the toilet's going to be there, and it's going to be unlocked, and it's going to be usable. So if you're going to take grandma anywhere, you've got to do it by the toilets. Has anybody organised a bus trip for anybody of the over 65s? Is that how you do it?
Yeah, the problem with McDonald's is, though, that their toilets are very small. If you've got someone with mobility, you can't get them in there.
Yep.
So they're very tight in space. So not always.
Okay, so we'll need to write to McDonald's, will we, and tell them to upgrade their toilets. Yes, I think some toilets are really just for women anyway. It's just so small. If you go in with a large handbag, you can hardly even shut the door. So that's another topic. Don't get me on that one. Okay, so let's move on. So you'll be pleased to know that is pretty much me done now. That's me just introducing you to the topic, and now it's going to be down to you and to what's going to be happening for Holroyd, we hope, fingers crossed.